Hello everyone and welcome back to the Belgian Beer Brothers channel. Cedric here from Antwerp, and we are gonna talk about another beer from abroad today. I know some of you are thinking, but Cedric, it's called the Belgian Beer Brothers channel. Well, that's because I'm Belgian. The beer doesn't have to be. I don't care where beer is from, as long as it's good, it's qualitative, and it has a nice taste. It's all good for me. We are gonna talk about Poppels Bryggeri New England IPA today from Sweden. Now, let's first talk about the brewery as usual. This brewery was founded in 2012 near Göteborg in Sweden by brewmaster Daniel Granat and two of his associates, Thomas Kouden and Thomas Filman, who he apparently met the year before. The brewery is named Poppels after Johan Caspersen Poppelman, who was a Saxon notary who moved to Göteborg somewhere in the 1600s, the early 1600s, and he started Poppelman's brewery after some travels and some work, probably in 1638, although breweries were required to register since 1649, so that's for certain, but suspicion is that they started in 1638, after which it was exploited by his ancestors for another 7 generations until it closed down in 1835. And somewhere in between those almost 2 centuries, it was even rebuilt, be it in another place just outside Göteborg, after the Great Fire of Göteborg in 1721. So it was not only one of the largest, at least the largest commercial brewery in those days, but the one that has been in existence the longest. Daniel and Thomas named the brewery Poppels out of fear for legal disputes with the ancestors of Johan Caspersen Poppelmans, so they shortened it, and originally the brewery was started with 15 owners, or actually 15 investors. Today, after a successful crowdfunding, they have close to 4,000 shareholders. All things are going well for Poppels Bryggeri, and Bryggeri is just Swedish for brewery, by the way. But it started going well straight after the start. So like I said, in 2012 they started the brewery, and they started out with, with their first beer, of course, a 4.8% ABV brown ale. Now these guys love to experiment, and soon thereafter they started bringing out some new beers and some experimental series. They even made some fruit beers and crowdsourced some things. So really cool. And already in 2014 they had their second expansion and they raised their capacity. Now 2015 was an important year for these guys, because in March they exported their beer for the first time, be it to Norway, a neighboring country, but soon thereafter they started exporting to England and to France and some other countries as well. And the fact that I'm drinking one in Belgium right now must mean something. In May of that same year, they actually moved to a completely new brewery just outside of Göteborg in Jonsered, in a more an industrial area. And their new site included not only the brewery, but also a restaurant, a bar, a shop, and so on. A few years later, in 2019, they did some more experimenting, and they paired up with another company, and they made an organic vanilla ice cream with triple malt from Poppels Bryggeri. Then in 2022, so just post lockdown, they started Poppels City Bryggeri in central Göteborg, right in the middle, and there was a lot of secrecy around that, and of course, mid-lockdown, you're not announcing anything fun for the people, but just post-lockdown, they announced the opening of this city Bryggeri, and this is supposed to be a very cool place, and it is a very unique place. Why? Well, because it is the largest oak barrel based Pilsner brewery in the world. It has a bar with about 170 seats, and you can drink the Pilsner almost straight from the fermenting barrels. They just pump it into a tank for the tap system, but apart from that, there's nothing between you and the fermentation tanks, so can't get any fresher. Poppels Bryggeri is also very proud of being a very ecological brewery. For example, they make a lot of efforts like cleaning with ozone instead of lye and acids or chemicals. They put a lot of effort and a lot of money in research to produce lighter bottles made from largely recycled glass. They use mainly organic ingredients. They power their brewery solely by wind and solar power. And currently they are the second largest craft brewery in Sweden. Apparently they produce close to 1500 or 13 or 1500 hectoliters per month, and have over 20, maybe even 30 beers now in their range. So quite a variable portfolio as well. Now about this beer, I must say I am not a great fan of the labels. You guys know that I like simple and I like aesthetic. This is very abstract and yeah, not my cup of tea. Unfortunately, it is all in Swedish, and I don't speak Swedish. The only thing that I can read here is the ingredient list. So, ingredients: water, barley malt, wheat malt, oats, hop and yeast. Okay, barley, oats, so I'm expecting a rather full mouthfeel, a nice rounded beer. I do know that this is, well, it is an IPA, so of course it has a lot of hops. It is dry hopped, it should be quite fruity, juicy, tropical. It is Scandinavian, so I am expecting a bit of resiny flavors, but that is of course just an idea. And even though I can't read Swedish or I can't understand Swedish, I do know that they recommend serving this with seafood, with lamb and with halloumi cheese. Thank God for pictograms. Now, I did read about this beer that it was developed after Daniel took a trip to Vermont, not Vermont, Canada, but Vermont, New England, and Daniel was overwhelmed by this juicy, aromatic, but less bitter variant of the IPA style, and he got inspired. He didn't know that before, so he wanted to experiment and make this himself. There is also a message from Daniel Granat Bryggmästare on the can, but again, can't understand one word of it. Probably what I just told you guys, but in Swedish. Okay, let's go for it. I am very curious about this because, well, you know that I love the Pojala beers from Estonia. I know that James from Rampant Lion Reviews lives in Sweden, and he has talked about many Swedish beers, and they seem to turn out pretty good all the time. So I already smell a lot of aromas. That's a good sign. Oh yeah. Indeed very juicy. I do get a bit of that pine resin that I expected. I don't know if I'm just biased or it's really there. I do get some tropical aromas, very fruity, very juicy, a bit of berries, a bit of mango, again a bit of papaya, as often is the case with these New England IPAs. Actually some pineapple there as well, quite sweet and slightly sour maybe. That is just the initial aroma. Oh, look at that, nice and hazy. Quite carbonated. That's nice. This lovely straw yellow color. Also very juicy. It reminds me of pineapple juice or tropical fruit juice. Some nice white, very, very clear white foam. Nice hazy beer. Actually just as expected. So let's dive right in. Lost a bit of its aroma. Of course, while pouring, a lot of it evaporates, and I do have a large surface area now, so I do get a bit more carbon dioxide now. Let's have a taste. Cheers. Ooh. This does not taste as it smells. Now, of course, this has been the case quite often. I expected a very tropical, juicy, maybe even citrusy, orangey IPA, but instead I don't get any orange or pineapple or anything. I actually get a very nice, soft, smooth bitterness, and I expected this to be less bitter actually. So it's very, yeah, very contradictory. Yeah, there it is. The initial taste was a nice, smooth, soft bitterness. Actually reminds me a bit of cashmere hops. And that second tasting, when I take it all in and I circulate the beer and also the aromas, I get more fruity flavors. Again, the pine resin is quite present in this beer. It's very soft. It is very well rounded, and I do get a nice full mouthfeel. So the barley, the wheat and the oats, mainly the wheat and the oats, are very present. It does have that slight sweetness as well. So some rest sugars are left. Yeah, very nice beer. Okay, I actually like this better than a lot of IPAs, because again, this has a very dry aftertaste, a nice bitterness, but a fruity bitterness, so some yellow grapefruit in there. Actually, a lot of yellow grapefruit is in there. Again, I absolutely love this beer, which is a very pleasant surprise. I came in expecting nothing. Oh, I did not expect yeast in the can either. Oh well. I'll have to drink this more carefully now. Okay. All that being said, I'm gonna end and drink this quite carefully. But I'm absolutely gonna enjoy this a bit further. How should I score this beer? I think that I am going back to a 375, so a 7.5 in Untapped. Well, 375 in Untapped, 7.5 out of 10. Yeah, very well made. Again, I'm not an IPA drinker, but I do have to acknowledge a well-made, rounded, balanced product, and this has all those qualities. So yeah, Daniel Granat, Thomas, very good job. As usual, you guys, if you like this video, hit the thumbs up. If you want to see more, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and you will get notified whenever I upload something. Yeah, and if you have any questions, anything to share, anything to say, let me know down in the comments, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. So, cheers you guys, see you in the next one.